Recording in progress.
Welcome in to the latest episode of the Betting the Pitch Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, Real_G Warner. We are 50-21, 74 or 70.4% year to date. Going to try to improve as we're going to do an ultimate best bet, combining the Europa Conference League final and the Ligue relegation playoff second leg. Probably didn't have a lot of people expecting that to be a combo podcast, but there are only a few soccer matches left in the, the seasons that are going on. These are, technically postseasons, but I guess you could probably call a conference league a season. And so we're going to cover teams in France, England, and Spain, and spent a lot of today catching up on their last played matches and watching the first leg of the relegation playoff in France. So we are ready. We're going to go through some best bet options, going to try to pick out a winner on this episode. Those of you that are joining live, thank you for coming in. It's a little earlier than the true, real late night with the Real_G Warner. But if you are here, you want to throw a comment in there, I will put it up. Of course, I'll put this on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify under Betting the Pitch. If you want the full episode, you can fast forward, rewind. I think you should be able to do that now live if you're with us. But regardless, that should be there tomorrow. And if you want, of course, the YouTube version, look for @the_Real_G Warner, and that's where you can get the 1-minute video with the ultimate best bet, also available on Instagram.com @the_Real_G Warner. So best bet winner from last time. We've been on a pretty good streak to end the season. Major League Baseball is super hot, and that's where I've been spending most of my time, but did get a winner on the final Serie A episode of the season, with Parma coming back from a 2-0 deficit at Atalanta to make sure that they were staying up and not getting relegated. That was pretty cool. One of our last two best bets that I've watched. So that's also great. Going to try to keep that momentum going as long as possible. Also, I guess one technically, probably there's another winner in there actually that I've been missing, and that is the Tottenham Hotspur number. So I might have to update that as well. Good for us, good for everybody. But we'll get into it now. And so let's start in we're starting in the Europa Conference League. I probably need to pull up where this match is because it is in some very hard to pronounce place, which I think they were making fun of on a lot of the coverage heading into the semifinals and such. But I'm updating the numbers while I have them as well, because I do know I forgot to put that in earlier today. But bear with me. We'll be getting there very soon, and then we'll be discussing how to win some money. And hopefully this will be in all your hands or in your ears soon enough so that you can possibly put this in, or at least know exactly where we're planning to go. All right, so I have updated the two advanced numbers we'll discuss, or the two lift the trophy numbers, and of course we'll be quoting all lines courtesy of BetOnline. And without further ado, let's get into it. So we'll start with Real Betis. They're half of a goal underdog on this neutral site against Chelsea. Total's 2.5. We got more juice to the under and to the Chelsea side. The two lift the trophy numbers. Betis 2-1 odds right now. Chelsea minus 250, so 250 US to win your $100. Let me get the location of this matchup, because that's, I think, important to everyone, and I get to really embarrass myself with the pronunciation. So they are playing at Stadion Majewski, and that will be in Wrocław, Poland. They're in Poland. I'll stay there with Polska. Estadio Municipal de Breslavia. I don't know where that comes from. That does not sound Polish. But regardless, here we are, and we're going to Poland. So let's go there, and let's figure out who's going to win this match. So Real Betis, they are in a much better rest place. They petitioned La Liga to play their meaningless final match against Valencia at home. They positioned to play it early. They got to play on Friday. So according to my math, Friday, Saturday, that's 2 days between them playing and when Chelsea played, with a fair amount riding on their matchup, as they needed to stay in Champions League positions. Winning this trophy will only get Europa League, which is not really anything for Chelsea. Real Betis had nothing to play for. They'd already gotten as far as they could in qualification. So there's a pretty big rest advantage here for the Spanish club. In terms of where this number has moved, that might also be valuable to discuss. So Real Betis, initially I first saw a pretty juiced 3/4 of a goal underdog. I was hoping that this would hit one, much bigger than the number, the quarter of goal I was expecting, or at least my numbers spit out. Probably deserved a little bit more for that, but I am treating this as a true neutral, which seems like any continental matchup that involves an English club, they're always going to get a ton more respect than another one, especially Spain or really anywhere. But I do think we need to really think about, money is a big difference. And it seems like the English football clubs travel so much better than the rest of the other leagues. And that is something to consider in a neutral site stadium, because I feel like one of the best sports betting strategies is to figure out who's got the crowd advantage and bet that, because on a neutral site, because a lot of times it's not very well accounted for in the numbers. The difference here, though, is Real Betis are one of the best traveling fan bases. They have more fans in their away sections sometimes than home fans of teams they're visiting in La Liga. I guess that comes from past success or being one of the most famous. Like, they're pretty much all the Real Madrid fans, I guess 20 years ago were all Real Betis fans or something like that. So that does mean something. Certainly there will be a ton of Chelsea fans as people, of course, flock to London, especially all over Europe, but or at least have their eyes set on London and things of that nature based on the history and such. If you knew more about Sevilla, I think you'd like that better, but also the English named it Seville, so screw them. As you can tell, I might look that way, but I'm certainly not a fan. And I got to say, so I'm not completely surprised to see that Real Betis have gotten bet down through that 3/4 of a goal. It was very juiced anyway, way back when, down in this currently half of a goal underdog. Minus 107 is what BetOnline's dealing right now. And that's a decent price. It's certainly been, we've been seeing a lot of money coming in on Real Betis, from 3/4 of a goal down to a half of a goal to even money. And then now from minus 110 to this minus 107. So it seems to be finding it. The water has found its level on this number, probably at this half a goal number. I would expect, based on if you've listened to any of the podcasts I do across continental football, Europa League, Europa Conference League, or Champions League so far this season, you should expect that there are a lot of bets and money that comes in on English clubs. I think because betting is a more normalized, I guess, part of English pub or football culture, with all the Paddy Powers of the world, and of course all the punters, I think it's called over there, different terminology here in the United States, but c'est la vie. Real Betis, I think, so probably want to get more deeper into the matchup now that we've discussed that, though I guess I should also go through the two advanced numbers. So I've tracked this from initially Betis plus 207 to advance. That has changed fairly significantly till now. Let's see, I get this number updated. And there's been actually a decent ride, I would say, from where this number has moved throughout. So it's down about 3.5% from the open, and Chelsea are back to where the number had opened. It initially got bet down about 12% from Real Betis plus 207 down to plus 185 in the week or so between I had looked at numbers, or at least by the time it moved and I saw that enough to jot it down. Then some Chelsea money came in, hit it back up about 6%, and we're up another 4% from there. So we're about even, and some money's coming in Real Betis, and that number has certainly, I guess the handle's actually gotten worse somehow, but leave that to the sports books, unfortunately. But at this point, I think 2-1 odds on Real Betis, who are a really good team. They played very well this season. They balanced the Europa Conference League with faring well in Europe, despite having in Spain, despite having nowhere near the financial backing that Chelsea have. But I also feel like they entered the season without a striker and have played so well without one. They do not have Cucho Hernandez, who is not registered for this competition. He's been starting a lot of their Spanish La Liga matches. So that is something to consider. They also sent out Borja Iglesias on loan to Celta de Vigo and didn't buy him back mid-season. I don't know if that also speaks to their financial issues, but Real Betis, they don't really have a target man. They're probably going to play, I want to say Bakambu, if I'm getting his name right. Let me make sure I'm doing that before I move too far away from this. So Real Betis, I have them playing at striker. It looks like they've had Bakambu. Yeah, that's their striker. He's had some good showings for sure. But really this team is about their midfielders and their creativity. You have Antony, who is probably fairly well known in the Premier League and certainly has seen Chelsea plenty during his time at Manchester United. They're trying to keep him after his loan deal, I think in January. Also, Jesus Rodriguez, a younger player who's been really, really good. And then in central attacking midfield, you have Isco, who's been, I think, the player of the year in La Liga. He might not have won that award, but welcome to Barcelona scoring 1 million goals a game and kind of being a surprise champion. But also Giovanni Lo Celso has been great too. So there's a lot in attack. And I feel like that also means that if Real Betis fall behind, there's a very good chance that they can come back. Plus, if they don't fall behind, I think there's a very good chance that they dominate the ball because they have so many great players in their attack. And I don't know that we really see that from Chelsea. So Chelsea got a 1-0 victory on the road at Nottingham Forest to close out their season and finish in the Champions League place. I've not been impressed by Chelsea since maybe the first month of the season, it feels. Cole Palmer has been on a milk carton for a long time. So I'm not so scared about that, I got to say. They deserve to be favorites, I guess. I made them a favorite, expected them to be one, but bigger than I made it. So I'm automatically interested in Real Betis. Chelsea's defense might be better just because Real Betis don't have the money to spend like Chelsea have, but half of Chelsea's defensive players are playing for another club somewhere else in Europe. So that doesn't say too much. I mean, their goal at Nottingham Forest was a missed kick by Neto on a set piece that was tapped into an empty net by their left-footed center back, who is the furthest man up the pitch. So I don't really expect that to happen. I expect Marc Cucurella, who comes from Spain, moved to Brighton, then to Chelsea, and is the biggest. I mean, if there's anyone that hates Spanish football and it hates that has made it to England, certainly Marc Cucurella is a really good example. And I still think it's hilarious they call him Cucurella. But at this point, the midfield for Chelsea is going to be scary. Enzo Fernandez, who won the World Cup with Argentina, and then Moses Caicedo, another South American, just incredible defensive midfielders. And I feel like that's going to be where Chelsea probably try to do everything they can to stop Real Betis, is in that midfield. And that should be a great matchup. That probably determines who wins this matchup, who lifts the trophy, or at least maybe go an extra time as an underdog if you're Real Betis. Total here, 2.5. I think those midfielders in defensive type of positions, Enzo Fernandez is not really much of a defender, but Caicedo does everything you could ask for and more. Reece James has been back at right back, but he doesn't seem to be the offensive spark he used to be. Cucurella, I almost said Cucurella again. Jeez. He's a pest and can certainly bother and spark some teams, spark some guys. I just don't know that there's a lot of really angry players on Real Betis that he can really get. But though I'm sure he's going after Antony right away. So that's a pretty good matchup, and we'll see how that ends up working out. But I guess before we move off this game and move to France, as this is going to be a pretty short episode, I'm very interested in the underdog. Feel like we've seen underdogs dominate all these cup finals, the FA Cup, for example, the Europa League, the Coppa Italia, and more. And I feel like we've seen it's really hard to be a favorite in these matches, as I think Frank LaBeouf on ESPN FC here in the United States, not the greatest show, but they are funny from time to time. They don't know anything about what's going to happen, but they talk about finals and when they played in them, and he's a World Cup champion, as he says every time he's on. But literally all they do is just try to win those games. They don't try to really impress anybody or do anything too beautiful with the football. I feel like that probably plays into Chelsea's hands a little bit more, but I think they still have plenty of players that see themselves as creators. And I think this is going to be another situation where the underdog, no home underdog here because there's no home team, but I think the underdog's very, very live, and I'm very interested in backing Real Betis in this matchup. Now, for the ultimate best bet, though, I got to decide if I'm most interested in Real Betis or in the under. I think there's arguments for both, because I think there's going to be another low-scoring final, as that's what happens on the road in Poland, the city I can't pronounce. And that's a tough place to be. I think there's plenty of interest for me on both sides. That might give you an idea of where I'm going to go with my actual bets for this matchup. But I'll go Real Betis half a goal underdogs. I think we have a good chance that maybe if there are some goals in this one, we still could head to extra time. And of course, any sort of result is decided at 90 minutes with the point spread entering into a game. And that would certainly pay the Real Betis half of a goal side. I would recommend waiting, though, because I think we'll see a little bit better price before kickoff on Wednesday, tomorrow afternoon here in the United States. I'll move now to France, and we'll move to, looks like Champagne region. We have Stade Reims hosting Football Club de Metz. Metz, of course, they're a yo-yo club, basically go up and down every season from Ligue 1, but they're installed as a slight underdog away from home. And the first leg was a 1-1 draw. Metz took a lead, and then Reims ended up equalizing in the second half on the road. Big for Reims because they are at home, and also big that they had to play the Coupe de France final this past weekend against Paris Saint-Germain. They tried, but they didn't really put up much of a fight. I think a lot because their livelihood as a club was certainly on the line in this matchup. This I guess Thursday is, so we got a couple days until this match kicks off. But Football Club de Metz, they're to me a side that, like most of Ligue 1, as they brand themselves the League of Talents, Ligue de Talent, the League of Talents, that there are a lot of young players that are kind of coming up and will be bought by some bigger clubs, is pretty much how everyone does it. So in this first matchup, in terms of the Metz lineup, I mean, there's plenty of players that have been around for a while. Mathieu Odol ended up scoring the opener, and he's been, I think, a club captain for a long time, even in like a FIFA 2020, I want to say, soccer video game that I bought during COVID because there's nothing to do, and I knew we were going to be behind closed doors for a very long time. They have had plenty of names changed for sure. Their goalkeeper changed with Alexander Okija, who's been in place for a long time there. He actually lost his position, but to another goalkeeper who was injured for this matchup, and they still played someone over him. So we'll see how that ended up going. But I recognize Vanden Kerkhoff being there still after being suffering relegation in Liga last season. And so there's still some talent there. Sabali as well, though that last surname is certainly all over Europe at this point. But to me, there's still, or I guess the better thing for me to say, I think, for a club coming from Ligue 2 against a Ligue 1 side, is that this Ligue 1 side, and honestly, the bottom of Liga is not that different from Ligue 2. And you could argue that Stade Reims, they were pretty fortunate with who they played, getting to the Coupe de France final, but that match was on Saturday, and Metz didn't play this weekend, and Stade Reims did play a pretty decent squad. And so that's going to question exactly what this team's going to look like. They made some changes, but not many. And I just, unfortunately, a U.S. international headliner, striker, or whatever, leading the line in Jordan Sibachu Pifak, however it's pronounced, or whatever he's calling himself now, just has never really been able to score goals efficiently. And that at the top of the spear is just not something I'm really afraid of. So I'm pretty interested in betting against a Stade Reims side that have all the pressure as Ligue 1 favorite, though not a really big one at this point. So spread is currently Reims a quarter goal favorite at home with more juice on Metz away, slightly more. Total's 2.25, juice slightly more to over. So first matchup was 1-1 at Metz. And I think it's probably a race to the first goal. Similar to the Frank Leboeuf comment, I think playoff or relegation playoffs, they're kind of like finals too. It's really not about impressing. It's not about trying to win 3-0. It's about trying to win and make sure that your club is either promoted or that you stay in the league you are threatened to be booted from or relegated from. And I think that's probably my biggest interest, is both to the underdog and to the under 2.25. I think in terms of my favorite, though, for this one and what to put up as my nomination for the ultimate best bet coming in just a few seconds, because like I said, it's not going to be a super long podcast, but I think under 2.25 is my biggest interest in this one. And I will make that my last word on Ligue 1 and Ligue 2 playoffs game as it's listed on BetOnline. So it's time to get into the ultimate best bet. We have done a F1 podcast added to the Betting the Pitch lineup this season. You can find that at Betting the Pitch or Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. It's actually The Pitch Betting on Twitter. If you want to, I guess, see when I retweet whatever I'm putting at the _G Warner, because that's certainly my main account. But we'll be doing, trying to figure out what to do for the summer. Certainly be covering the Club World Cup, but might be adding a baseball podcast. But need my baseball co-host to lock back in. So if you want to tweet at ABrooksBets to get him back on the airwaves, please do so. I think for The ultimate best bet, though, and of course, we still are doing Major League Baseball podcasts at pregame now on Twitter or through the RJ Bell Dream Preview feed on Apple Podcasts and everywhere you get your podcasts. But I think for this episode, somehow we've already made it 20 minutes. We haven't even recorded the ultimate best bet, but it's been a really good run this season. I can't imagine that the record is going to be this good next year. It's been awesome, but had a pretty good close to the end of the soccer season, and certainly Major League Baseball has been awesome for the month of May. I think we're closing in on 20 units, which is certainly my goal for a season. So we'll see if we can do that and how long we keep that up. But thank you, of course, for all the support and through a long, grueling soccer season. We're almost done. It's almost summer, and I'm so looking forward to sleeping in on Saturdays. That's all I can say. But it's time for the ultimate best bet. So I think it's time to get into it, and let's do it. Hey, this is Real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet from the UEFA Conference League final and the Ligue relegation playoff second leg episode. Those are the only matches we went through. You can find the whole podcast at Betting the Pitch on Twitter. You can find the Pitch Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And of course, feel free to check this feed at the Real_G Warner across YouTube and Twitter and Instagram if you want this 1-minute video. But it's time for the ultimate best bet from the UEFA Conference League final. I'm interested in Real Betis, a half of a goal underdog, and Ligue 1 in France, the relegation playoff. I like Football Club Metz at Stade de Reims at under 2.25 goals. But for the ultimate best bet in this episode, check out patreon.com/Real_G Warner for all my plays across all sports, including these soccer ones, but also that hot Major League Baseball May that we're about to close. Let's go with the best bet, 50 and 21, 70% year to date. Let's go Real Betis, half of a goal underdog on the road. Just kidding. At a neutral in the UEFA Conference League final. I don't really believe in Chelsea, so sell them. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope that the late night edition to get it all in your podcast feeds for tomorrow is exactly what you're looking for. And have a great evening, and let's win some more money because we've been doing well lately and try to keep that going.
Recording stopped.